to me, enough is enough. They just wanna hurt us, bring us down. Enough is enough. We won't let them hurt us, bring us Enough is enough.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Indie Wrestling Corner with another episode of Under the Ropes. I'm your host as always, the queen of the indies, Tiffany. And I'm so excited because I feel like this is a long overdue interview and we made it happen. My good friend, Larry Legend. What is going on?
I am here, and you are right. It has been too long that I've been seeing you do your things with a lot of my colleagues.
Yes.
And now finally, on June 1st, Pride Day, first day of Pride Month,
Hell yeah.
Here I am to talk to you finally on Under the Ropes. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited. And I wanted to support all my people with Pride Month. I did the flag eyes going on today.
I saw your post.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw you, girl.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Much love to all you guys. I've been saving this look actually for the longest, so it gave me more of a reason to do it today. So I was really excited. So, woohoo! So I love everybody out there. So, but
Love is the answer, so spread it. Not
Yes.
just Pride, but every month of the year. We need a little bit more love, not just this month, but amongst all of us. So thank you for the support. And yeah, I'm so honored to be here on this day.
Absolutely. Awesome. So, guys, if you're new to the Under the Rope series here on the Indie Wrestling Corner, I interview everything independent wrestling, whether it's wrestlers, promoters, ring announcers, backstage. I got you covered. If you guys got questions for Larry, please feel free. Drop them into the chat. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. And
Yeah.
make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you share it. All for the audio listeners out there too. I love you. Thank you so much for the downloads. Much appreciated. So we are going to learn very much about Larry. All right, we're going to go back to basics. We're going to learn a little bit about you. So how did you get into wrestling and how did you become a ring announcer?
Well, I guess I got into wrestling. My friends and I started kind of like one Thanksgiving when I was on break from college. You know, I was an undergrad at NYU. You know, my old high school friends and I, we all got together and all we were talking about was wrestling, you know, and how great the storylines were at the time. And my one buddy, you know, he went to a performing arts high school with me. He was a junior, you know, at this point, but he had a camcorder.
Mm-hmm.
And one, you know, night during the Thanksgiving break, we were all just horsing around with his camcorder, and we started like doing like, oh yeah, this is how that interview that Crash and Hardcore Holly should have gone on SmackDown. And like we filmed it, and then of course, in the joshing about, it turned into like a brawl. And you know, it was just really like pushing onto the sofa and doing stuff like that, but we loved watching it so much.
Mm-hmm.
We loved watching this little like joking about thing that we did where we were kind of doing moves, that we decided to try to do it again.
Oh.
And we decided to try to take that camera and do it again, but in the confines of the backyard. And you know, that Christmas break. So if you know, Thanksgiving break, I'm home for a bit. That winter break, I came home, and that's when my old high school friends and I and a few of the guys that I graduated high school with, we started doing backyard wrestling.
Right.
And, I can't deny that that is definitely my path to lead me to CZW and the great beyond. It is the relationship I have with my best friends, watching wrestling, loving wrestling, going to see wrestling live, playing No Mercy in WrestleMania 2000. And in particular, with those two games, I always call them out because of the Create a Wrestler feature on both No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000. It's an engine I wish they would go back to in games now. But those engines on the Create a Wrestler really kind of showed you the mechanics of like a collar and elbow tie-up, and posting for a suplex. So I'm not going to say that any of us in the backyard were trained, because we weren't.
Right.
None of us were in any sort of school or anything like that. But through those two games and us loving those games and doing the Create a Wrestler mode and coming up with our own version of Benoit or Angle that wasn't on the game, we kind of like learned like a lot of different ways to do like what we were watching on TV and what we loved so much. So my origin story of becoming a ring announcer and getting into wrestling all started with backyard wrestling, and in particular with my backyard fed. You already know I was always the commentator. I was always the ring announcer. Whenever there was a backstage segment, I was always the voice of like,
right.
Oh, that happened last week. How do you feel? So my path to becoming a host, a ring announcer, an MC started with just doing this thing on my own with my friends. And in particular, while we were doing it, always being kind of like the Vince McMahon, Michael Cole, Kevin Kelly interviewer and announcer. So that's really where it started. And eventually I was at a pivotal age, right around that 21 years old age. And I kind of was like, I don't have too much time and I really love doing this, but I'm not going to be able to make any money off of it or gain any sort of level of, status in my backyard. That's a tough road to plow, and there's no way we could build a fan base to come to see backyard wrestling. So I somehow found my way joining a pro wrestling school right here in Baltimore, Maryland, where I'm from. And it was the MCW Bone Breakers Pro Wrestling Training Academy. And the way that I found out about them was they ran ads during Raw. When Raw would run on USA here in Baltimore, you would see like ads from like a local Chevy dealer or ads from like, something local that was just playing for us. And MCW would run ads about Bone Breakers Pro Wrestling Training Academy.
Right.
So I remember it vividly. I was watching Raw and one of those ads ran and I was like, I don't want to be a wrestler because I don't really think I have the discipline to have like, a body. Like, I don't really like the gym. I wasn't the most athletic, 21-year-old at all. And I was like, I really don't think I want to do that, but I really want to be a part of this. I really want to somehow get involved. And I guess really what I wanted to know was, how did you guys get that ad to run on Raw? Because I'm thinking Raw is like a nationwide show all over the country. Yet here I am in Baltimore seeing an ad for a local pro wrestling training academy, which meant to me that somebody was running a business. Mm-hmm. You don't just get a commercial during one of the highest rated shows on USA on a Monday night unless you understand the mechanics of like how you can advertise and promote. Mm-hmm. So I basically, still around the age 21, 22, I called the number and I was like, hey, I don't really necessarily want to be a wrestler, but I'd love to get involved in what it is that you were doing. I saw the commercial and that seemed major to me. It seemed major to me that you guys had a commercial during Raw for this school. Mm-hmm. So how can I get involved? And they invited me down to the school to look at it, tour the facility, and of course sit down in the office and go over like payment packages, and I kind of was like, what? Like payment packages? I don't want to be a wrestler. I said that. And they were like, yeah, we know, but like, what we are going to be able to provide for you is going to open up a lot of doors and windows. And we cannot just be giving that away for free. So since you don't want to be a wrestler and you're not interested in being a ref, we have a tuition rate for managers, mm-hmm. And it was lower than a wrestler. I think for a wrestler, it was $3,000. For a referee, it was $1,500. And for a manager, it was $1,000. Mm-hmm. And they were like, we're going to put you on that plan. If you want to do it, you sign your name down that you'll make payments. And you will learn the wrestling business through us down here at, the Bone Breakers Pro Wrestling Training Academy. So it was really kind of like, I gotta pay these guys to like work for them. Like it just kind of like didn't really, it sat sour with me. But I was like, time's a wasting. Again, I'm 21 years old. Time's a wasting. It's kind of like now or never. And I made the decision to go ahead and sign up to be a manager at Bone Breakers Pro Wrestling Training Academy. However, when I first started down there, I didn't do any like the drills, like running around the school and, forward rolls and, all the sit-ups and all that. I didn't do any of that cardio. I really just came in and like worked out of their office. Like they had a small little office where I met with them to talk about tuition payment plans. And, I kind of became like the coordinator of the office in regards to like responding to like voicemails and clearing out the email and never really tidying up, but kind of like receiving the merchandise, the shirts, the tapes, receiving all that stuff and organizing it and getting it ready and packaged for shows. Like I kind of became they kind of immersed me into like that part of I don't even know what that role is called, just like helper, like assistant. I guess my role was like really like a production assistant, and yeah, I just, this was like October of 2001. I went and visited them in September of 2001, and I became like a member of the MCW extended family as like a assistant by October. I was doing shows by October of 2001.
Right. So awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love to hear it. But see, these are the reasons why I like doing these interviews, because, there are people, we'll get into that also later in, the podcast, because I always kind of like to end on that note, there are people that listen to this podcast. Maybe they are looking to get into the business, or what do I need to do and stuff like that. So I love that you got to share this story and, really break down of, how you started, and this was something that you did, and going to the school and paying the tuition and being the manager and just like growing through where you are now. So awesome.
Oh yeah. There's a direct path. We all have a direct path to being on a podcast.
Right.
Like, there's a reason you want to talk to me. And my path started doing backyard wrestling, but then like really like wanting to do more.
Right.
So kind of finding a way to get involved in a local company. I mean, for a long time, I didn't even realize that there were other like local companies. I didn't realize there were like ROHs and CZWs and NYWCs and ICWs. I didn't realize that for a very long time. For the first few years in my career, I kind of just was thinking like, I knew there was another like rival Maryland company, but I didn't know about all the regional like indies.
Right.
Until I met Ruckus. From Blackout,
Yeah.
And I found out about like other JPWs and all the other companies, and how you could kind of like tour them and
Right.
like do shows in New York. Like Ruckus, who kind of like introduced me to the indies. When I met him, he was kind of like the king of the double and triple shot, which is like multiple shows in a day, in a weekend. Like you do a show in the afternoon and then leave that show and get to the CZW show just in time to go on for his match.
Right.
It's like all about doing that because there was money to be made, and he's talented and everyone wanted to pay to see him and buy his shirt. So I really kind of got introduced to like the indies through my relationship with Ruckus and CZW, and how he brought me into CZW.
Right.
After for about 5 years, I'd say, all I did was MCW. Eventually I became the ring announcer of MCW, who was the Bone Breaker school, but I never did anything else until eventually Ruckus was on an MCW show, and he was just like, "Hey man, I gotta take you to CZW with me."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, cool," but I was thinking, like, go ahead, what is CZW, and then the rest is history.
Right. So awesome. There is so much love in the chat. Let me get to you guys, because I see you guys all in there and typing and all that stuff. Steve Stone says hi. Brad, he goes, Larry. I can actually like hear Brad. I mean, Brad's like my best friend in the world that I know forever. So I just hear him going, Larry.
Yeah, a lot of people love hollering my name.
Yeah.
And I'll take it.
Bryce is in the chat. Oh, excuse me. Chad Spectacular is in the chat.
Oh, that is in here. It's starting to get a little hot.
He goes, hey, best friend. Hey, Jack Sabbath's in the chat. What's going on, Jack? Love you.
Jack Sabbath was the first promoter to ever put my name on a flyer. Like he's really instrumental in me getting a lot of the traction that I got.
Right.
My first New York proper Fed was ICW.
Yeah.
Before that, it was just NYWC. But Jackie Jack saw me up there and was like, I want you to come through to my show and maybe do something. And here we are today with ICW No Holds Barred. So hi, Jack. Thank you for helping put me on the New York scene.
I love it. And it's great because I came across the photo the other day with you, me and Jack, that you and me were taking a photo and he photo bombed our photo at one of the ICW shows in Queens, New York.
Ultimate Fitness Queens.
Yes.
I did those shows, which were awesome.
Oh man, those are great. It's just so awesome. All right, let's see more love in this chat. Jumbo Ref's in the chat. What's up? He goes, hey, Larry.
Jumbo.
Let's see who else. Mitten's in there.
The Interstate Gigolo Mitten.
Oh no, this is a different Mitten. Mitten, not Mitten, not the Mittens.
Okay.
Good.
Not Mitten.
Is it a good cop, bad cop? Mike Thick. Brandon's in the chat. What's up, Brandon? Matt Awesome's in here. He said, dude, the truth's always a delight to see him. Absolutely. Let me get to some of these questions in the chat. Brad wants to know, is there any one event that is on your bucket list to ring announce for?
Event?
Mm-hmm.
No, not really an event. I mean, I guess I had my WrestleMania moment the year that Mickey Rourke, I think Jericho fought Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair, and Jimmy Snuka. No, Roddy Piper and Jimmy Snuka. There was a year that Jericho fought the three legends. And it ended with Mickey Rourke jumping out of the crowd and decking Jericho, and it was all kind of tied into that movie, The Wrestler. Mm-hmm. And they played the trailer of The Wrestler on WrestleMania that year before the match. Mm-hmm. And if anybody knows that trailer, the first thing you hear is my voice. Right. So I wasn't there physically. I didn't record anything for WrestleMania, but in a small kind of way, if you watched WrestleMania that year, or if you have the DVD of that year's Mania, or whatever, you were in the arena, you kind of heard my voice at the very beginning of the trailer of The Wrestler. So, right. I guess the easy answer would be like, oh, I want to announce WrestleMania, but that's really not the case. There is no event that I really long to announce. Mm-hmm. There are venues that I really want to get into and be able to say that on my bucket list, I announced in Corrigan Hall, mm-hmm. or I announced in the Tokyo Dome, or I announced, you know what I mean? Like, there are venues mm-hmm. that I definitely have on my bucket list. The Barclays Center, I want to ring bells in certain venues, but like event, no, I can't say like, oh, I can't wait. I want to announce Tournament of Survival or Masters of Pain or something like that. There's no event that I really have on my bucket list that I want to announce. I'll get around to them. If the promoters know what's good for them, they'll have me, especially if it has a legacy, like something like a Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup or Best of the Best or Tournament of Death. Events that have these legacies, they know it's good for them. They'll get me involved. But no real one event that I have on my bucket list, but definitely a lot of venues I got to get in.
Okay. Awesome. It's funny because it's like, a lot of stuff you're saying are questions that I got, and there's like just a bunch of questions because I see more questions going to the chat. But let me do, because I have a couple of here. So I have a fan tweet. Let's start with this fan tweet for you from Drown, Texas. He goes, Mr. Larry Legend, how long have you been an amazing, outstanding ring announcer? And also, what is the one thing you like doing about your profession?
I have been a ring announcer since December 4th, 2002. So that's 19 years. On December 4th of this year, I will have celebrated my 20th year as being an announcer. So I've done it for 19 years. And I guess the thing that I like the most about my job is being on the ground level of the fan fervor, like that rumble when the title changes hands, or that kind of initial pop when the show first starts.
Mm-hmm.
That was all something that I used to be when I was a super wrestling fan, not in the business. I used to be part of that and chanting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I get to kind of be the maestro that controls that in a small way, to make sure that the sounds that accompany the show are the right sounds, So I guess that's my favorite part, is kind of being the conductor, the music that is, our business and what we do. I kind of have a big part in that. The voices all do. So, yeah.
I love that. I definitely love that. Let's see. So let's go, and I'm gonna go all over the place because there's just so much to talk about with you, which is so fascinating.
Talk about it all.
Actually, let's talk, since he's in the chat. Let's talk Chad Spectacular, okay? Because I know that he's learned so much from you, and I've talked about this on the podcast with him when I've done the Under the Rope series with him. He's done the Chad Spectacular soirees. So awesome. So tell us how it was working with him. I know that you guys had that show recently at the H2O building. Give us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Chad is, he's great. He's spectacular. I have gotten a chance to do some really good things with him. I really admire the fact that not only is he trying to do a show, but his shows are always centered around a really good cause.
Right.
Whether that be bringing awareness to mental health, or whatever the case may be, creating a safe space for LGBTQ community. Mm-hmm. All of his shows are really fun, very vibrant, and they all have a message. Yeah. And that's something that I think that a lot of shows could stand to have, in addition to just great matches or great talent. So I missed the first Chad Spectacular soiree. It was right after April Mania. Where was that? In Florida. And if you guys don't know, a lot of the times I get myself to any show that I do, and I do it by just renting a vehicle. I've been renting vehicles ever since my time with ROH, and that's just the way that I get around. Well, after the pandemic, the dark days, they started really hitting you with all these fees. And, full transparency, when I got to the rental place to get my car to make it up to the first soiree, they were like, oh yeah, there are all these new fees, and if you don't have them, we're not going to rent to you. So I sent a message to Chad and told him I was having some personal issues, but it was really just a matter of not being prepared to undertake that much more expense to go, make this appearance. And I told him that I would make it up to him, and I did. Right. In a big way, with Chad's Spectacular Soiree 2, Pronouns and Throwdowns, which was in March. And we had a blast, and it was once again a really good cause. And he's a real leader. It was very kind of a spectacular thing, pardon the pun, for me to see him kind of be the general of a show and kind of get all the talent together around the ring, just like Tremont does, and just like other promoters do, and kind of be going down over how things were going to flow. And to think he's so young, he's so new to the business, that type of ambition is kind of scary to me, because I got involved when I was 21, but now it's I'm 40 and I'm seeing all these other hungry 21 and 22 year olds get involved in the business, and in such a shorter amount of time they're doing way bigger things than I was.
Yeah.
Like I said, it took me 5 years to even realize there were 4 years to realize there were even other companies. And you have someone like Chad, who's very new to the business, who's already done 2 shows and talking to me about his third. Yeah. So it's it's very, he's an admirable individual, but he better not get out of line with me, because I showed him at the soiree too that I will give him a Baltimore beatdown, and I'll do it again if he gets out of line. Just because you graduated, you might have walked across that stage, doesn't mean you're too old for another pow. Okay? Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right, let me grab a question from the chat. Faustino, I'm sorry if I say it wrong. I'm so bad at pronouncing names sometimes. He goes, ask Larry if he's ever legitimately been scared by a wrestler starting off the match way too hot before he can even make an announcement.
So yeah, I don't know what event this was. I should find out. It was a CZW event, and the match was like a four corners something, and the participants were Sabian, the Black Cheese, Sami Callihan, Adam Cole, and somebody else. I maybe got the Adam Cole part wrong, but it was like four wrestlers, and they each were in the four corners of the ring after I had announced the last person. And Sammy told me in the back, he was like, yeah, just be on the lookout, because as soon as you get the last name out, I'm just going to charge. I'm just going to charge and start this thing hot, you know, so just be on the lookout. So, like, I get out there, and, like, literally after the second guy that I announced, Sammy charged, you know, and, like, I was thinking it was going to be all four of them were going to be in the ring, and he, like, charged and, like shoulder tackled me out of the ring.
Oh man!
Like literally shoulder tackled me out of the ring, and I was really scared because I was like, did I mess up? Did I did I forget what I was supposed to do, or did I hear it wrong or something? And I thought I was gonna get yelled at, and I did get yelled at because Jeez was like standing over me like while I was on the ground in the arena, and he was like, "You dumb motherfucker!" And like I was like, did they just rip me, or like did they just like kind of like shoot on me to be like, yo, we're really gonna get Larry? So like if anyone is a CZW studio account, I don't remember the match, but I swear to you, this was like one of the first bumps or like physicality that I ever experienced too in CZW, at least, where like Sammy told me that we were gonna start the match one way and it involved him charging, but he told me to wait, and then in the actual moment, it wasn't the time that he said he was going to do it. It was a lot earlier. Right. And because of that, he missiled himself into me, shot me out of the ring, careened me out of the ring to the floor. And then when I get myself together, and I'm like, holy shit, what the fuck? There's G's like saying, you dumb motherfucker. And then like, I'm like, what just happened? So that was a scary moment. That was a scary moment while I was in the ring with someone. Also, Zandig is a very imposing figure if you have never been around the Ultraviolent Icon Zandig. And not so much now, because I know I guess now he probably still is an imposing figure. Let me not, like, give myself in trouble. But, like, when I first came to CZW in 2005, just as the personal announcer of Blackout, he was kind of a scary, like, bikerish kind of, like, I don't know the vibe I'm getting from this guy, besides, like, I just don't want to fuck with him ever, like, you know. So I don't want to say I was scared of Zandig, but he was very, very just larger than life, like a huge, imposing, like the boss, you know, like the boss, you know. So yeah, that was one time I was scared in the ring by a wrestler, Sami Callihan. Go figure.
Seems like that's great. That's great. Yeah. All right, there's so many questions in the chat, but let's talk ICW before I start hitting up some of those questions, because a lot of those things in the chat are ICW related. Okay, so let's talk ICW. So I mean, we can talk about before. You know, I'm gonna leave it open so we can talk a little bit about when Jack was running it, and now we have the no holds barred ICW that Danny DeMonto's been on it. So it's so great to see the involvement of ICW, and I love being supportive of both. And it's just so crazy. So let's talk some of your favorite moments of both, or maybe anything you want to talk about, like ICW as a whole.
I guess I mentioned it already. ICW was the first company to ever, like, put my name on, like, an advertisement. And this was, like, in 2011. So, like, I wasn't even Dragon Gate USA yet, or maybe I just become Dragon Gate USA. And I had been doing shows with Steve DeAngelis for the old ICW at the Elks Lodge. And then Jack kind of told me one of the times that he paid me, he was like, I think we're going to go in a different direction, and we're going to maybe have you do more of these shows. I'm going to talk to Steve about it, but I think that's what we want to do. And, you know, I was like, oh, that's great, but I love Steve. And he's like, yeah, I love him too, but, you know, you're cheaper. Yeah, and Jack will attest to me. That's what he said. That's exactly what he said. He said, you're cheaper, you know? And I was like, oh, well, okay. Because I'm, like, kind of starting out at that point, you know, not really all that known on the scene at all. So I became the ICW announcer, and yeah, I'll never forget, it was a poster with like Prince Nana, Cold Hearted Player Danny D'Amato, Notorious 27 Homicide, like all these names, and then the last name it said, and Larry Legend, you know, or it said, or no, it said Larry Legend and more, exclamation point. And I was like, holy cow, like, you know, Jack said he wanted to go in this direction, but I didn't know he wanted to go this hard.
Yeah.
You know, with me being like, you know, an announcer that's featured on the big old school style poster. So that was probably one of the biggest moments in my career. Because, you know, Larry Legend that was a CZW like deal. Like when I first was in CZW, I was with Blackout and I was just called Big Larry K.
Yeah.
Big Larry K. Well, you know, because Blackout, it's not the full word black, it's just BLK. So my first like name on the indies was Big Larry K. And when I came back just to be the full-time CZW announcer was shortly after John Legend had released that that Ordinary People song, and it was all over the place. And I worked at Starbucks at New York City at the time, and that album had come out, you know, as an exclusive to Starbucks, the John Legend CD. And whenever I was working at that Starbucks, I would put that CD on intentionally during the busiest times. And I remember one time I was going into the Starbucks that I worked at, and they were really short-staffed when I came. And one of the supervisors looked up and he saw me walk in and he goes, "Larry Legend, come in to save the day," because they really needed my help. And because I always was known for putting the John Legend CD on, I guess he just combined those two names. And I remember, like, when he said that, I was like, that's cute, Larry Legend. And, like, I was like, that is really cute, Larry Legend, you know? And I was like, wow, I guess that has a ring to it, you know? Larry Legend, LL Cool J. And, like, you know, and also, like, there's John Legend who's out right now, and he's, like, all the business, you know? So I didn't have a plan to eventually christen myself Larry Legend. But when DJ Hyde and Maven Bentley approached me about taking over CZW as the full-time announcer, I was like, hey, the last time I was there, I was kind of the Blackout guy. Well, I should probably do something to make myself my own guy. Still kind of be like Blackout affiliated. Now I'm my own guy.
Right.
And I was thinking that Larry Legend, since I thought that name rang bells so much, I was going to christen myself as that. So for me to have become Larry Legend in CZW and then have another indie in New York, New York, you know, based indie, be like, Larry Legend. It was like, that was a huge thing for me. Like, that kind of meant that I was on. Like, I'm on, you know? To me, it signified that. So, that, doing shows that lasted past midnight was like a thing that I'd heard about, but it wasn't until I started working Jack shows in the Elks Lodge that I experienced, like, starting a match at midnight, Homicide versus Two Gold Scorpio. Like, we literally started the intros at midnight.
Right.
And, you know, those guys, they're like 15, 20-year vets.
Yeah.
So, you know, at the time, so they ain't doing no quick thing. So I remember I didn't get home that night till like 2:30 or maybe even 3, living in the Bronx.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, those, and then also just kind of the birth of the new ICW, No Holds Barred.
Yeah.
And to have been able to say that I am now going into my second decade. Like, I've already got a decade of ICW underneath my belt, you know, having them first be the company to put me on a flyer, on a poster. And now I'm here for the new ICW. And it's like, I got all these graphics, like, showing my face, not just my name, but now it's like the main event package, Ron Nemi, The Struggles, and Larry Legend. Like, so it's like, that's huge to me. That's huge to me. And it's also kind of significant because, like, there is no CZW anymore, really, you know? And it's like, at least if, like, you know, that version of CZW is dead, my legacy as being this entity known as Larry Legend first started in CZW and has now eclipsed even that company and can go on and on and on and on and on, you know? So,
right.
You know, yeah, those things, like being first featured on something, like doing these shows that were marathons, and still being a thing, still being an ICW guy, like, to the core.
Right.
Even though I'm in a Violence and Suffering shirt, you know, right now. You know, being an ICW guy to the core is like, huge to me. You
Yeah.
know, that's part of what makes you a legend. It doesn't make you a legend to like be doing the most. It makes you like a legend to like consistently be the guy that you associate with a brand.
Mhm.
You know, and the first time that I met Kevin Steen, not Kevin Owens, but Kevin Steen, it was like, you're the CZW guy, right? And I was like, you know what? I am. You know, and
like that.
there have been times in my life where it's like, you're the ROH guy, right? And I'm like, I am. You know, and I've had my cup of coffee in a number of companies, but I'm going on into my next 10 years with ICW No Holds Barred, to the point that I can even say that I've seen the company evolve into something totally different than when I first got involved, so that's huge.
It's great for wrestling in general. If you look at it as a whole, as the indies, and like I said, well, that's why it's the Indie Wrestling Corner, because I love the indies, and we get to talk about everything with the indies, and there's like a million promotions out there, and you've worked the whole shitload of promotions, which is so awesome. But let me get some of these questions into the chat. Brad wants to know, who is your favorite Kirk, Brandon or Casey? Make you sweat a little bit.
Yeah, like literally now. Like, yeah, I guess. Oh, that's hard. I guess I get along with Casey more, actually, because Casey and I, we go back before ICW, actually. Right. There's one point where Casey and I were both kind of like on a trajectory to like go into WWE. This is like 2017, and we both kind of did a couple gigs for WWE together. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know about what it's like when you're not like a member of WWE, but you're trying to get in. But it's very like kind of like, it's very angsty. It's anxiety. It's nothing nice. Mm-hmm. And I remember while I was back there, probably trying to stay out of the way, that beats you like in everybody's face. Casey came up to me and she was like, "Hey, you're from NYWC, right?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." She's like, "That's where I trained from." And I'm like, "Oh, cool, right on. Well, I'm glad to see you here. What are you doing?" And she's like, "I don't know. I think they're gonna do something with me and Asuka." And I was like, "Oh, that's fucking awesome. Like, well, are you ready?" And she was like, we just kind of like chatted it a little bit, and that night she did go out and fight Asuka and get the tar beat out of her, and I remember like the doctor taking care of her in the back and like these huge bruises on her neck. And I remember saying to her like, "Wow, girl, you did that." Like, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm feeling it now." And we subsequently went on to Norfolk the next night for another WWE tryout, extra work, whatever you want to call it. And she was like limping and all banged up, because when Asuka first came into WWE, she wasn't to be played with. Like, she was very stiff, very like, whatever,
Yeah.
And so Casey and I go back a little bit further and a little bit deeper because we can share that than Brandon and I. I don't have any stories like that with Brandon. I met Brandon when I started doing JCW, which eventually became GCW, and he was like kind of like well, Danny DeMonto is the one who's really the conduit for me to do a lot post my CZW career. And I remember there were two guys that Danny told me to watch out for that were his guys, and they were Jeff Cannonball and Brandon Kirk. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you this much: I've never actually seen Brandon Kirk in a bad match. Like, I've never like announced him in a bad match like that I can think about, But I don't have a story like that with him, that I have with Casey. So I guess Casey's my favorite Kirk. Like, we go back to the Casey Catal days, honey. Yes. Okay, that's a long time before Brandon Kirk came into the situation. So yeah, Casey's my favorite Kirk.
Brandon, you gotta start making some damn moments around here with Larry. Like, seriously.
Yeah, you gotta come hang out with me in Baltimore. We can walk down the harbor together.
I love it. Captain Dave's in the chat. What's up, Scott?
Hey, always wishing everybody a happy birthday. I love you for that, Captain.
Sky's in the chat. What's going on? Colton says, Larry, who do you think is the next guy up in ICW?
The next guy up in?
Yeah.
The next guy up in ICW? Well, I mean, The Bev's been doing some real. I mean, the Bev's of probably the Bev. Like, I mean, he's got Casanova Valentine at the next New York show, No Holds Barred 26, and I like Bev. I like his vibe. He's keeping that 440 flag raised high, So I look for big things out of him, So I guess I'd go with the Bev, the beverage, if you will.
I love that. All right. Give us a little bit about your preparation before you go out and ring announce.
Well, I usually, it depends. It depends on how much time I have, and I usually don't have a lot of time. But the prep involves like hot tea, preferably green tea. Might be from 7-Eleven, might be from Royal Farms, might be from somewhere fancy like Starbucks. But I try to find like big hot green tea, and I more or less, with honey, I more or less nurse that all the way until it's time to go. Oh. I also smoke, as a lot of you know. I'm not proud of it, but I do. And after I'm all dolled up, and I've taken a picture of the lineup, and I'm sure that I know what is first and how it's supposed to start first, probably go outside and smoke a little bit before it's time to go out there and kick off whatever show. So those things are pretty much the last two things that I do. I make sure I have my hot tea. Sometimes it's a situation where I'm like really, really rushing and I don't even have time to stop at like a gas station for tea and honey. So I just have like a Fiji water, which is some kind of water with me or some kind of drink. Because you all know that I give my all.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing to smoke, but it is a habit that I have. So I got to make sure that my pipes are nice and lubricated the entire event so that, I'm able to kick it off in grand fashion and close it out in even grander fashion. So it's pretty much my ritual before I go on out there.
Okay, I like that. All right, another thing I would definitely want to talk about with you, which is fun, and actually I talked about it when Dylan McKay came back on the podcast recently. Let's talk Masked Wrestler, because this has been such a fun product on the IWTV app to watch. I love watching like social media, people trying to guess who it is. And, so this time it was at the H2O building, which was really cool. So talk to us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, well, it's awesome. It's just awesome to do like a show. It's just, I guess I always do shows, but the Masked Wrestler is very much adjacent to the Masked Singer. And for those of you that don't know, I am a huge Nick Cannon mark. Okay, I don't know him. I only met him once. So I'm not talking about the person behind the host. But as far as Wild 'N Out and the Masked Singer and all that stuff that he does, I love Nick Cannon's swag. I love his style. So to me, it's like I'm kind of like the wrestling Nick Cannon by doing that show, and it's it doesn't pass me that we both are African American and we both are very stylish, and both are kind of like humorous hosts that kind of keep everything going until we go to the commercial. So it's awesome to like have someone that I admire like Nick Cannon who's doing his thing on a way bigger level than I am, admittedly so, but still kind of to be in my own little bubble, my own little niche, and to kind of be able to be like, oh yeah, the Masked Singer, yeah, I do the Masked Wrestler, I'm the host of that, so it's great to do a show. It's great that there's a platform like IWTV that doesn't just show like events, but also has like, the life of the Masked Wrestler and just content for us wrestling fans to like binge one rainy day or when we're ill, I can go through all of these and kind of do that like you do other kind of media that's out there, like Game of Thrones. You can do that now with a show like The Masked Wrestler or Uncharted Territory. And I think that things like that are honestly, if I could map out the next 10 years for me, my career would be more doing productions like The Masked Wrestler. Oh. It would be more like doing like event center hosting, like more like akin to what Peter Rosenberg, and all those guys do on WWE before the show, like that kind of like paneling, hosting, welcome, as opposed to he is the bad boy, because that. Yeah, I got Chad Spectacular, I got J Rose, you got the one and only MLJ. It's enough announcers out there,
There's a lot, yeah.
I'm not saying that I never want to announce again, but 20 years of it, I'd love to grow into a different type of role where I'm doing more like hosting duties, like Nick Cannon, as opposed to Little Boy Blue, come blow your horn, which is really kind of been the last 20 years for you, as good as it feels. Larry, I give them my all, so a lot of times at the shows I'm spent, I'm really tired, so if I can find a way, and I'm not trying to say that the Masked Wrestler is easy money, because we did a lot of work for that. It wasn't easy, it was grueling, 2 days, but I'd love to be able to get more bags that were kind of like all right, show up to the set at 9 a.m., and then at 5 o'clock we're done, come back the next day, as opposed to Tennessee drives, Vegas flights, Boston drives, that's good.
I love
That's
that.
good for birds, I love what I do, and I know that everyone's expecting me, but after a while you're just like, oh my God, will it ever end? I love the Masked Wrestler, and also I love, not to toot my own horn, but I love, you're right. When the Masked Wrestler was on, Twitter is going nuts.
Yeah.
And I feel that I'm kind of a part of that. And if you're a panelist on the Masked Wrestler, or you're one of the individuals that gets revealed as the Masked Wrestler, you kind of get that little spike in your social media attention, your internet clout, if you will. So I feel a lot of that throughout the entire season because I'm the host.
Right.
So it feels good. It felt really good. Being the lead-in to Dynamite when wrestling Twitter was percolating in anticipation for what they were going to see on Dynamite. Oh, Masked Wrestlers on first. Percolate, and then, more media all night long. So it's great. I love it, and I'm looking forward to season 3, which I foreshadowed. If you didn't watch this past season, I already foreshadowed it because I love it that much. I'll be the first one. I went into business for myself. That wasn't anything that I was told to say. I was like, you'll have to wait for season 3. Because I want this thing to keep going. I want there to be a whole other season of the Masked Wrestler. It's that fun. And I'm just glad everyone has embraced it and likes it as much as they do. And it's an award-winning show, or award-winning original series, IWTV. So yeah,
it's great. It's short. It's great. It's short. You get one match. So
oh my gosh, yes.
If
you got the 3-hour juggernauts and shows that go, like I mentioned, to midnight. Get your nice little 27 minutes of bingo, bango, we're done.
Yeah, it's so good. Well, let me go off to this fan tweet because it interacts with the Masked Wrestler. So Good Cop, Bad Cop said, I love Masked Wrestler. So if you had to be one of the Masked Wrestlers, what would your gimmick and name be?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. Well, if I had to be a Masked Wrestler, I mean, everything is so creative and kind of draws on a little bit of what the wrestlers are about. Well, I'm really into horror. Everybody knows that well, maybe everybody doesn't know, but I'm really into slashers, 80s slashers and horror stuff. So I guess in the legacy of the Leatherfaces and the Freddys, of Wing, I'd probably try to be some sort of grotesque masked maniac. Maybe that would be it, the Masked Maniac, although I think I'd probably have to answer to, whoever, Frank Goodman or whoever, but something like that would draw on what I could really get into, which is elements of horror and gore. If I even had a say in that, because I really don't know. I mean, even though I'm the MC and the announcer and the host, I really am not in on how things are put together. So I don't even know if the Masked Wrestlers got a say, if Ralph, or Wallflower, or if that was just kind of the production crew that put that all together.
No, you have to be the host and you have to wrestle.
Wow.
Hey. Many hats.
I don't know that. Hey, I mean, I am trained. Imagine if I'm revealed to be under the. That would be amazing.
Hey.
I'm gonna sit on that one, but that would be a turn. That would be a turn no one would be expecting.
Yes, just when you thought you knew, you didn't. Pretty.
Larry Legend. That's right. I was under the.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that aftermath of it? Like, just like interviewing yourself pretty much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think wow. Okay. Moving on. 'Cause I don't know. Like, that is brilliant, actually.
Hey,
I feel for it, you know.
you never.
We probably cursed it by speaking.
Oh, damn it. Let's clip this.
We can't do it now, you know.
Let's clip this out and hope that it's
Yeah,
just like
rinse that. That never happened. You know?
never happened.
Yeah.
We're just gonna mute that whole
Yeah,
part.
That'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hold on. I need water now because I'm like dying.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's so many fan tweets. I see you guys in the chat. Okay, let me do this other fan tweet here. Okay, Good Cop
Alright.
Bad Cop says, with Larry Legend being an anagram of gallery nerd, what or whose artwork makes you nerd out?
If I were in a what? Say it again.
He loves to mess with everybody. He goes, okay, so he loves doing anagram questions on this podcast. So he said, with Larry Legend being an anagram of gallery nerd, what or whose artwork makes you nerd out?
I guess I nerd out for Lee Moriarty's artwork. Like if you want to keep it like in the realm of wrestling, I got a buddy called Meek Brilly. Like I nerd out for his artwork. I'll share it. And anybody who does fan art of myself. I mean, I got an ego, so yeah. I guess I can't really like name any artists.
We'll take that though. We'll take that.
How about De La Vega?
There you go. There you go.
I nerd up for De La Vega's artwork.
All right, next fan tweet is from Carl. He wants to know, why are you so beautiful?
I mean, I guess my mom made me that way, and my dad had to have a little bit of a part in it as well. And if you've ever heard me before, I always take it back to my mama. You know, a lot of the qualities that you like about me, it's all from my rearing, and just kind of like learning to be a genuine good person and be honest from her. So thank you, and that's where I get it from.
I love that. My goddaughter says that to me when I go, "Why are you so cute?" She's like, "I was just born that way."
I mean, hey, you know, I'm being honest.
No, I love it. I love it. All right, let me grab a question in the chat. Faustino says, "What is Larry's wind down after a good show?"
Probably chiefing with with a circle of friends, chiefing with a circle of friends. And I'm not going to name any names, but if you know me and you know what I like to do after a show, there's usually a couple circles, that are formed by a couple individuals. So that's the way that I like to wind down before I usually drive, 3 or 4, however many hours back home. I stay in some cities sometimes just because it's safer. Like if I've driven like over 5 hours, I don't want to drive 5 hours after doing a 3-hour show. But a lot of the times my unwinding is just in a circle chiefing with my comrades.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. All right, let's go to a bunch of these. Since there were so many fan tweets from John. Shout out to you. He goes, "What are some?" He goes, "What are some favorite things whispered to you while you're in the ring waiting, and by who?"
Justin Kyle comes up to me in Boston at the last ICW No Holds Barred, and he whispered to me, "I love you." Dale Patricks will often mouth "I love you" to me when he comes into the ring before I do the intro. Kind of like that story I told earlier about Sammy telling me that, like there will be times where right before the main event, I need to know like, oh, this is about to happen, and you don't even know it because you just were out here. So, those are some of my favorite things whispered because they make sure that I'm safe, and I won't, mention it. But a lot of times if you watch, if the camera's on, you'll see there are a lot of things that are said between myself and Ref SPO, Sean Patrick O'Brien. We have some fun exchanges. I get along with like all the refs, so those are some fun whispered conversations. But I love you is one that I get a lot.
Aw.
And that's one of some of my favorite things that are whispered to me.
That was a fun question. Definitely was
Yeah.
fun. His next one is something you would like to see more of in people's introductions or entrances.
Okay, so, some guys that I approach and I'm like, how are you introed? They will be like, I'm not gonna, I never like saying names that I don't want to get myself in heat, but they'll be like, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 252, this guy. And I'm like, okay, that's all you want me to say? And easier for me. But I like it when the guys have things to kind of that the announcer or the MC can kind of build to. For example, Nick Wayne. Okay, Nick Wayne is from Seattle, Washington, and in his intro he ensures that the announcer says he is the son of Pacific Northwest pro wrestling legend Buddy Wayne, Nick Wayne.
Yeah,
I like when people have things like that for the announcer to say. I like announcing Akira as the goddamn motherfucking Death Samurai Akira. I like when the guys take that personal kind of care of what they are presenting. The human meat grinder, Schlack, public animal number one, the cold-hearted player. Those things, I think, don't do anything but add to the overall what we're doing. I think that those things go with the music that, a wrestler chooses to come down to the ring. And it kind of, to me, is a gift and a curse, because then sometimes you'll get you sometimes then come across wrestlers who want you to say a bunch of stuff, but then it doesn't really add anything to anything besides them just wanting to hear you say a bunch of stuff.
right.
So you know what I'm saying? I kind of David Starr's intro was a little much for me, and I got it with what he was going for. But as an announcer, I've got a lot of things that I need to announce all night long, and you're not always the main event. So I remember at Spring Break 2, I did his intro, and I only did a few of those things. I don't even remember all of them. And he got on the microphone. He goes, hold on, Larry. We all love Larry, don't we? And everyone's like, yeah, we love Larry. He's like, but if this is Spring Break 2 and I'm fighting Mike Quackenbush, I need all of my things said. And then he proceeded to say all of his, I don't know, the cup of coffee. I don't remember that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, come on. There's a long show to go. And when I would do that for Ruckus, the Jake the Snake of getting baked, the Teddy Long of hitting the bong, the Vinnie Mac of the dime sack, all that stuff rhymed and kind of lent itself to hip hop and weed. So I got it. But come on, man. You're just saying all this stuff. He's really good at Twitter. This is really just I'm wasting my voice. And I announce Janela versus the great Sasuke at the main event. So it's a gift and a curse, because I like that when done right. The Duke Hardcore, John Wayne Murdoch, whatever. But then sometimes it can go a little crazy. So
Right.
that's one thing that I wish that guys would do, is give your MC, give your announcer more, as long as it pops, bro. Don't just be saying a whole bunch of stuff to say a whole bunch of stuff. This fits with who you are. It gives you goosebumps before you go into battle, but not just a whole bunch of falderall.
Right. I get that. No, I totally get that. Damn, he gave so many questions. I'm going to eliminate some of them. But he wants you to answer. He goes, no copping out, Pazuzu or Blackout?
Yeah, it's definitely got to be Blackout, because, Pazuzu kicked me out. If you know the entire narrative of my time with Pazuzu, Pinky, excommunicated me on his own. And then that's when that was the whole part of why I came back for Uncharted Territory Season 2 with Chuck O'Neill and Dom Greeny and Kevin Koo to form Legit Legends. because, like, you know, they kicked me out, and you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, it was like basically like, Ruckus met me and saw like how I could be a good feature of the Blackout group, the labeled at the stable, and it was kind of like all of the Pazuzu guys really didn't want me there. I felt like I feel like that all of them saw that I was a addition to the overall package, but my real cheerleader was Pinky Sanchez.
Yeah.
Pinky is the one who even told me about everything
Right.
with Beyond, honestly. So he was really kind of the one that went hard for me, and I guess it made sense that he was the one to take me out. But yeah, I gotta go with Blackout, bro, because I still go hard for Kingston and
Hell yeah.
Ruckus and Robbie Marino and, you know, all of the members of Blackout. So definitely Blackout on that one, cuz.
I love that. Okay, so we got to talk about the obvious. Let's talk about the big juicy hot dog.
Let's address the juicy hot dog in the room. So I'm gonna tell you one thing about the juicy hot dog. It is humorous, but guess what? Like, I typically sell hot dogs out. Like, and who knows? Maybe they would have sold out regardless. Maybe
Right.
they would have sold out regardless. But I have on several occasions had like the guy or the people who were supplying the hot dogs like come up to me and go, "Hey man, thanks for helping us sell out those hot dogs." And I'm like, "Oh, you sold them out?" They're like, "Hell yeah!" After you started talking about eating them, people just started coming over. Like, and I'm like, "Wow, great," you know. So as funny as it is, I'm also like, I'm kind of doing my job there, making sure that the vendors are making money, making sure that the fans are eating, and hopefully laughing while they're eating, because they're thinking about how I'm talking about putting that meat in between your lips, and how that kind of is funny at a death match or whatever show. So yeah, the hot dogs is the hot dogs is awesome, and I've actually found out that if I do not say anything about the hot dogs, I will get like, people will be like, "We want to hear about the hot dogs, Larry." And I'm like, there are no hot dogs here. Like, I can't talk about it if they're not here. Like, they got popcorn and chips. You know, some places they popcorn and chips is all they have. So, you know, it's like, as much as we all would love juicy plump Franks every event, they're not always there. So if they're not there, I'm not going to talk about them. But yeah, I love having fun. I love what I do, and if something like me advertising food is a fun part for people, I'm doing it. You know,
It's expected.
it just so happens that a hot dog lends itself to kind of being like, "What is this guy talking about right now?" Like the way he's describing it is like, is he really talking about a hot dog? Or, like, you know? And I'll just leave that at this. If you know, you know.
You know, here I got a funny story for you, because when Chad
What's that?
Spectacular came on the podcast and we were talking about him, he was talking about Slim Jims. He's like, "Come get your Slim Jims." So every time I started going to H2O, I started messing with it. I'm like, "Slim Jims." So when he came on the pod and we start talking about the Slim Jims, he goes, "Larry told me you have to find your juicy hot dog."
Well, you know why he had to find that is because he's Chad Spectacular, okay? And if you're going to be Chad Spectacular, well, then you got to be on the level or in the footsteps of Larry Legend.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know, kind of like you have your style, you have your presentation, but since
Right.
I already have something that's kind of like caught on
Yeah.
and is a part of the show that everyone loves, you got to find something too
Yeah.
that is like your steel. That didn't have to be food. It didn't have to be something at the concession stand, but that's a great thing because you're doing your job and you're
Right.
selling.
Right.
You know, so that's kind of like I said. Like a lot of the times, the vendors they'll come up to me and they'll thank me for like having fun. They'll thank me for having fun, and a lot of times they'll give me a juicy hot dog that I can shove in my mouth right then and there.
I love it.
Oh yeah, the vendors at the Bloodshed.
Mhm.
Oh god, they used to stuff me. They used to stuff me every show with whatever they had, because a lot of it had all been consumed. Whatever they could have, they'd be like, "Here, take this, take this. We made our night and then some. All you talking about a hot dog." You know, so.
I love that. Matt's in the chat. What's up? How are ya? Nick Papa G.
Yeah.
Nick Papa G says, thanks for the house, bud. I love it. I love it.
Nick Papa G, a classic ball breaker. I miss you too, Nick. I missed you in Maryland. I heard you dipped your toe into that MCW a second time not too long ago. I missed you being down here. I'll see you another time. Papa G.
I love him. All right, let's focus on some positivity here. Then I'll grab a couple more out of the chat. Okay, so obviously, there's so much damn negative in the world of social. If you listen to me, I'm very big on wrestling with positivity. All right. Is there anything that sticks out to you that you could share with us? Maybe something like a wrestler's done for you. Maybe you've done for, a wrestler. Maybe something a fan's done for you. Maybe something you've done for a fan. Something particular that we wouldn't really know about unless obviously we're asking you about it that you can share.
Something that I witnessed someone do.
Or that something you've done. Like maybe it's about you. Maybe you witnessed something or... usually, I kind of try to have it for something related with you.
Trying to think. I guess not too long ago, I was at an MCW show. I was in an MCW show that was in Maryland, and a wrestler came out, and he was a heel, and he did one of those things where you lunge at the crowd, and when he lunged at the crowd, there was a 9-year-old boy who got so frightened by that little lunge that he actually started crying right there in the crowd.
Oh.
And I went up to him and I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "No." And he was just bawling. And I was like, what happened? And he goes, "He cussed at me." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "He cussed at me." And he was pointing at the heel that was getting in the ring. And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna see about that, because if he cussed at you, that's not what he's supposed to be doing." And the kid was like, "Yeah," and I could kind of tell that he was a little calming down because I was talking to him. I was talking him out of his tears. So after the show, or after that match, I went right to the back and I said, "Yo, you guys made this kid cry out there." And not even the heel wrestler, but his manager was like, "Who does it? We made who cry?" And I was like, "There's a kid that's right along the barricade, and as you guys came out, Pat lunged at him like he was gonna get him. And he just burst out crying because I guess he thought he was really going to come after him." And the manager, who was a bad guy, Andy Weinberg, is who I'm speaking in regards to, he was like, show me the kid. And I pointed out of the crowd to him, and he came out in his rainbow-colored blazer, and he walked right over to the kid, and he walked over to security and goes, hey, I need y'all to bring him back here right now. And the security was like, "The kid?" And they're like, yeah, right now, just bring him back. And Andy walked to the back, and they brought the kid to the back. And of course, as soon as the kid gets beyond the curtain, he's looking left and looking right, because there are all of the stars of the MCW show that night in the back, pumping up, spraying themselves down. And he's tears are gone by now. He's totally bewildered, "Oh my gosh, I'm in the back."
Yeah.
And Andy Weinberg kind of took him to a hallway so he could be out of the flow of wrestlers getting ready to enter and talking over stuff that we really don't want him hearing about. But he took him into the corner and he was like, hey man, you said my guy cussed at you? And the kid was like, "Yeah, he cussed at me." And he's like, "Oh, well, my guys don't cuss. But just because you told me that he did, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fine him tonight, because I'm his manager. And all the money that he makes tonight, it goes through me. So tonight, just for him cussing at you, I'm going to fine him half the money that he makes tonight, all right? And you know what? As a matter of fact, I'm going to get him to come out here and sign something for you." And at this point, the kid is just joyous.
Right.
Forget about everything that happened. Forget about probably starting to cry. And the tears probably were from the fact that he was embarrassed that he started to cry. And he was kind of a bigger boy, but you got a 300-pound monster lunging at you. And, we turned that into kind of a moment of a lifetime. I mean, I was 21 before I ever made it backstage at any show.
Yeah.
But here's a 9-year-old that kind of just to turn that around. It was one of the most positive and powerful and loving things that I witnessed over the past few years. So,
I love that. See?
Yeah.
That's we got to spread the positivity around here, There's so much negative. I mean, I'm all about the positivity here, but that's such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that with us. I really love that.
You gotta balance all those negative stories with positive ones,
Exactly.
They do exist.
There is. That's why, I mean, like, that's very important on this podcast. It's very important to me that we share these moments. All right, let me grab some questions into the chat, and then I'll do like maybe like 2 of my questions because you guys are amazing. Brad wants to know, can you tell us about the shoes? You always have the greatest shoes.
Yeah, well, thank you, Brad. And I guess, I mean, the easiest answer is like, hey, if you're gonna go by Larry Legend, then you got to be looking legendary,
Right.
okay? And I've said that to Chad, Spectacular. I'm like, look, man, if you're gonna be going by Chad Spectacular, then you can never really give anyone an inch to breathe and be like, oh, well, that's not so spectacular, because then it's kind of like you got to find yourself defending yourself. And I guess Chad's gonna learn this the way that I've learned it, but there have been a few times where after the show I've seen pictures of myself, where I've been like, oh, yeah, it really doesn't look the most legendary, right there. Like, there have been times, where maybe I had 3 shows in a weekend and I wasn't able to have 3 separate pairs of slacks. So like, just in traveling to get to the show, my clothes kind of took a beating. And then because like I really didn't have the means to like press my clothes right there, like I just didn't look 100%. So in that regard, I pay very close attention to like always having something that is like bedazzled or legendary, or just like, oh man, those, like, I get so many people that are like, oh, those shoes, oh, well, that's part of the legendary moniker. Like, I can't not get that, or else why would I go by Larry Legend? I would just be Big Larry K again. Big Larry K used to come out with Blackout in like kind of, hoodies and, very like urban wear, like, but that's not legendary. To me, it's not, but when you have like the Gucci loafers or whatever, and, whatever, to add to, wow, this guy is what he says he is. He is legend. That's where that goes. But I'll tell you, I go to a lot of different places. Quail's menswear of Freehold. In Freehold Mall, there's a couple different Quails. There's also one in Staten Island Mall. Mm-hmm. And those are, I had a friend that used to call those the drug dealer stores. So you take that for whatever it is. I call them prom stores. Like, they really are like kind of like a destination for people that are doing their prom. And I get a lot of my accoutrements, a lot of my blazers and ideas I get from places like that. So
awesome.
And the shoes is on point every single time. They gotta be.
Gotta look like $1 million. Love it.
Legendary.
Yeah.
Which brings to Violence and Suffering. And a funny thing about Violence and Suffering, they specifically requested I dress down.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if you follow Violence and Suffering, Violence and Suffering, I'm in like a jersey, like a Michael Vick jersey, a Larry Bird jersey, and I call that the J Rose,
right?
Or the Emil J, which is just kind of like wearing like something. But I don't really think I dressed like a legend the first VXS show ever. I think the only time I ever dressed like a legend that I was actually Larry Legend was the first VXS show ever. Any other VXS show I've done, I've kind of been kind of like, dressed a little bit more for the trap. Because, that's what VXS is. That's trap house wrestling.
Right.
So we really don't want, a tuxedo. We don't want the bedazzled, sparkling. We want that gully, grimy, more like Urban Wrestling Federation Larry. So, for VXS this past weekend, and
oops.
VXS, there with the bud. It's okay, I got more. For VXS this past weekend in Las Vegas, I did the Celtics jersey and like my Price is Right shorts. I wore the shorts that I won the Price is Right in. Yeah. I have those shorts. They're like, because I wanted to get lucky in Vegas. I wanted to win. I wanted to win, big, so I wore my lucky Price is Right shorts and my Larry Bird jersey. Everybody knows Larry Bird is also known as Larry Legend, and a bucket hat and some Celtic socks. But it really wasn't. You wouldn't have been talking about my shoes at VXS because they really were just Nikes.
Right.
So it's just interesting that you bring that up, and I gave that answer about me always looking legendary, but I'm wearing a VXS shirt where they actually say, hey, be a little bit more urban legend as opposed to Larry legend.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm for that.
It's pretty cool. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see another question. Steve wants in chat. He goes, "Is Larry involved in the Eat the Turnbuckle documentary?"
Yes, indeed, I am. I am involved in the Eat the Turnbuckle documentary, and my history with Eat the Turnbuckle is Story and Schlack has never forgotten my involvement in that from before, like, they were even really wrestling.
Right.
We go way, way back, and I've always lent my voice to that. Eat the Turnbuckle upon Schlatt's request, and yeah, I'm involved in it, and it is gonna be legendary.
Really, really cool. All right, I'm gonna wind down to 2 questions, and we're gonna talk about what's coming up. So I'm much love to everybody into the chat for all your questions. Okay, so what's some things you like to do when you're not in the squared circle?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No, I'm kidding. I like to drink coffee. I like going to coffee shops. I like coffee a lot. I enjoy coffee. And yeah, nothing really else. I mean, I don't really like the movies anymore. It's kind of dangerous. Like going out now, and I also don't want people to recognize me, so I don't really do much of anything anymore. I'm not a New Yorker anymore. I live in Baltimore ever since my time with Ring of Honor. I'm back in Baltimore. I'm a Baltimorean again, and Baltimore is just not New York. I'm sure if I was still in New York, I'd have a lot more kind of things that I'd say I like to do, but I really don't do that much.
Okay.
I don't play video games anymore because I think that the replay value is just it's not what it once was. They just want my money. Hang out with the few friends that I have, but mostly I find that my friends are the people that I do the shows with, because that's what I care about doing the most. So I'm giving all of myself for that project, like they are. So those become my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I look so forward to shows. It's almost like my actual friends are being replaced by all of the people in the wrestling industry.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the benefits of that is that we don't have to always be up under one another and in each other's space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot more genuine when we do get to spend a little bit of time and jokes and smokes and things like that with one another, because it's sparing.
Right.
So yeah, I don't really do a lot.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wind down to this final question for you, and then again we'll get into everything coming up. All right, so what's a piece of advice that you would give the amateur inspired people trying to get into the business?
Don't set any expectations for what it is that you're going to get out of it. Everybody's going to get involved in the business with some sort of I'm going to be Jeff Hardy, or I'm going to be Stone Cold. But, that's not necessarily the path that the universe has for you. And I, even myself, as I've kind of budded into a pro wrestling ring announcer, there's still other goals that I have in the business at large. And I will achieve those goals by, learning along the way. But you see, sometimes when it looks like you're not getting what you desire out of it, you quit, or you kind of do things to make it a little bit funky and unnatural. So I would say, have the ambition to work really hard and dedicate yourself to perfecting whatever it is that you'll be, but really don't set, the expectations for yourself that you're going to get anything out of it at all, because you might not.
Okay.
And that's just the reality of it. You might not. I've seen so many people come and go over about 20 years. So some of those people probably had an expectation of what they planned on getting out of this.
Mhm.
And once they found out like the work that you had to put in it, they were like, "Oh, it's not for me."
Yeah.
So don't have any expectations. Just learn and absorb. And if you're the right fit for the role, right place, right time, might just strike gold.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's good advice. So much thank you for that. All right, well, let's talk about what's coming up. There's a lot of great things, a lot of great wrestling this coming month. So we got some flyers here for you guys. Obviously, June 25th, No Holds Barred. You'll be back.
Oh yeah.
You're right there. You're like a little confused.
I'm sorry. And I was trying to look because I wanted to make sure I had all my dates as well. I wanted to pull them up, and I think I didn't give you one flyer, so I wanted to look at that.
Oh, that's okay. So we can talk about it. So.
All right.
All right, go ahead. You wanna tip it off for everybody, like where you're.
Yeah. So first is this Sunday, June 5th at the Brooklyn Monarch. A Matter of Pride presents the kickoff of the LGBTQ month, the Pride Month in New York City, with a day-long festival. It starts at 2 p.m. at the Brooklyn Monarch, and at 6 o'clock, A Matter of Pride Wrestling will be doing a show. It'll be headlined by the Boy Diva versus Melina. Also, a young aspiring wrestler from the Maryland area who actually trained at the Bone Breakers Pro Wrestling Training Academy, is now called MCW Training Academy. His name is Jadis Quinn. He's getting an opportunity to wrestle in New York City on an LGBTQ-themed show, and I'm going to be hosting it. So we're going to ride up together along with his boyfriend. So that is this Sunday, June the 5th. The whole event kicks off at 2 p.m. There are a lot of LGBTQ, just legends involved in this, myself included. Lolita Leopard, just a litany of stars, and then a lot of pro wrestling. Melina, obviously, former WWF Divas champion, and me and Jadis Quinn, and a lot of others are going to be on the show. So that's this Sunday, June the 5th. You can get information about it by following my social media. I'll be putting out flyers for it, or going to amatterofpride.com.
Awesome. Very cool. And we got Paris is bumping. That's so awesome. I have the flyer up here for you guys. Great show. Definitely supported. A lot of these shows, they're on IWTV if you're not following already. So make sure hit that up and follow these great promotions. So
yes. So actually, I guess they're kind of like, the first one will be that one that I just mentioned, but you just mentioned A Matter of Pride. Well, that's what, June 18th?
That's June 18th, yes.
Okay, June 18th, Paris is bumping 3. This will be the third, and I believe final installment of the Billy Dixon joint. Yeah. Paris is bumping. It's going to be the, I guess, final confrontation. Never say never, but between Father Darius Carter and the overall mother of the House of No Bullshit, Billy Dixon. So that's going to be awesome. And I guess the flyer that you're showing up is a ceremony that they're doing for myself, Eddie McQueen, and Dark Sheik, where we're all being honored and receiving our flowers for our contributions to the LGBTQ community through our efforts in pro wrestling. So that flyer is actually not for Paris's bumping that you're looking at. That's for the ceremony that'll be held there. Mm-hmm. But I will be the MC for Paris's bumping 3. But that's the flyer that you showed. And then after that is after that is the, what other flyer do you have? Did you put it up yet? Or
yes, it's up here, yeah.
Okay, and then after that is the World Kickboxing Series from the Melrose Ballroom, which is finally getting back to doing some MMA and kickboxing. The entirety of the pandemic, I've really only been doing ICW No Holds Barred and VXS, and maybe every once in a while a little something with MCW Pro. We had a podcast called the MCW Cast, but my point is that a lot of my kickboxing gigs and boxing gigs and Muay Thai gigs have been kind of like just as a huge chunk of my income that's gone because of COVID.
Yeah.
Nothing. So this is really, really something important to me that I'm back in Melrose Ballroom, because I used to do shows from Melrose Ballroom all the time, and I'm actually was instrumental in getting pro wrestling in
Right.
Melrose Ballroom through my connections through MMA. So yeah, World Kickboxing Series presents Andy Sowers, WKS, on June 24th, the day before ICW No Holds Barred. So on the 24th, I'll be in Astoria at Melrose Ballroom, and the 25th, I'll be in Newark at the Hart Ballroom. 2 ballrooms. It's a ballroom weekend for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I love that. I love
yeah, during Pride Month, I like a ball. I like a ballroom weekend.
That's how you end off the month. Nice way to end it off, right? Pretty much. That's so.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know the last weekend is like Pride Parade.
Yeah.
So I know.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm doing the MMA show or the kickboxing show on Friday. Then I got Demontos on Saturday. So I guess I probably should just stay up here that whole weekend in the month and go to the Pride Parade, which I haven't been to in years. I guess this is gonna be the first time it's happened in a while.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. So exciting. Love it. So awesome. Definitely support the hell out of Larry, man. Like, get on the train.
Yeah. Oh, and if anybody wants the shirts, my signature ICW catchphrase, it's about to go down. I've got it on tank tops, and I've got it on orange and pink tees. Pink highlighted tees and an orange highlighted tee. They go really good with the ICW No Holds Barred rally towels of the same color. And if you want any of that, if you're following me on Facebook, Larry Legend, Instagram @RealLarryLegend, Twitter BLKLKP, just DM me. Or find me at a show. I do not have any sort of like pro wrestling tees or Etsy. I just do it out of my trunk like Jay-Z, which means you got to directly connect with me to get any of my merch. That's what kind of makes it exclusive. So yeah, just hit me up, and I got them shirts for you in sizes medium through 5XL.
Awesome. Definitely go give him some love. All those links are in the description below. If you guys are a little lazy, I got you covered.
Yes, Tiffany girl.
I got you. Larry, it's such a pleasure. I mean, I love like chatting with you. I'm sure you will definitely be back on the podcast because there's always going to be stories to tell. So I'm glad that we made this happen now sooner than later. It's long coming.
I want to tell you something about yourself. You are kind of like one of the figures where it's almost like when I come out and I see you, like I know it's a show. I know that makes no sense, but it's the same way with Mittens. Like if it's not an ICW show where Mittens is working,
Yeah.
and like I expect to see certain faces
Right.
at my show, and then I know like, okay, I'm here. Like I'm with my people. I'm with the congregation, if you will, and you are definitely one of those figures where it's like, my heart is like set at ease that I am Larry Legend and I'm about to body this performance, and I got my people out here that I know they're going to cheer and have a good time. So Thank you for being who you are in the game.
Oh no, I love it. It's interesting with the world of podcasting also on top of it, because now like with me trying to support wrestling as a whole and going to like other states and stuff like that and getting recognized, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane, and I still like sit in the bubble of denial a lot. Let me live in my denial.
Oh no, girl, you are an entity, and you know how right now I was just having this conversation about generationally speaking how different things are, and I was talking with someone about Joey Janela, and like just talking about how monumental his success has been predicated on social media and like videos. Like he drops videos like how music videos used to drop, or videos, promo packages by Isaac or DJ Tony will drop, and it's like those can like make you in this day and age. So it's like just wild for me, coming more from a Mean Gene Okerlund generation, to see like nowadays how Alicia too can become a star off of like do it DIY so it's commendable, and I'm glad you're at the beginning before it really takes off, so people can know that you got credentials under your belt, you does this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a good time, and I love the indie wrestling community and all that fun stuff, and I love putting it out there. That's the whole goal of all these interviews for your guys. Is you may or may not know the people that I interview on here, but they're very important to the indie wrestling scene right now. And if you don't know, you should know after these interviews. So
You don't know now you know.
and make sure you go buy a big juicy hot dog. I can't. Larry, thank you so much for coming on again. We'll have you come back again, hopefully sooner, so we can. Again, there's so much. I mean, we could probably sit here for hours and hours and hours, but that
I'm
will.
sure. Yeah, we didn't even touch we got to touch a lot of stuff. So yeah, have
Yeah.
you back. And
Yeah.
I mentioned that at the end of any appearance because I got tales to tell.
Ooh, okay. So stay tuned, guys. We'll do a part 2, hopefully in the near future. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for all your fan tweets. Thank you for all your questions into the chat. I love you guys so much. So you guys know the drill. Stay safe, support independent wrestling, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good night.